your forbearance to my colleagues and the chairman.
Senator Cruz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Nephew, corruption in the Western Hemisphere poses direct risks to American national security. Our adversaries exploit that corruption to literally buy up governments. To counter such corruption, Congress has provided the President with powerful sanctions, including and especially the so-called 7031C sanctions. Now, in your opening statement, you discussed the administration's desire to extend those sanctions. But as I've discussed with the State Department multiple times, I am deeply concerned that the Biden administration has politicized corruption sanctions. Those decisions have broadly undermined the integrity of our sanctions regime. You have used corruption sanctions to bludgeon countries and international figures whom Democrats simply don't like, while ignoring much more significant violations by those embraced by the global populist left, by the castristas and chavistas across the hemisphere. The State Department has imposed corruption sanctions multiple times against Western Hemisphere figures they perceive to be conservative, most recently against the former president of Guatemala. Cristina Fernandez Kirchner, Argentina's former vice president, was convicted of corruption in her own country for skimming nearly $1 billion from fake construction contracts. I've repeatedly asked State Department officials why the Biden administration has not sanctioned her for her corruption, and I still haven't gotten a satisfactory answer. So now I'm asking you, why haven't you imposed corruption sanctions on her and her associates?
Thank you, Senator. Sir, we don't speculate about or discuss or preview sanctions designations, visa restrictions before they take place, or comment on any investigations that may or may not be underway. And so, sir, I wouldn't have any comment on that specific case. On the broader point, sir, we undertake our visa restrictions and sanctions designations on the basis of the importance of combating corruption and the statutory requirements for taking those sorts of actions. Political affiliations play no part in who we decide to impose those sanctions on or how to use those tools. Thank you, sir.
With all due respect, that's just objectively not credible. You sanction governments you don't like, and you ignore leftist friends of yours who are utterly corrupt. How about Lula in Brazil? Lula was convicted by multiple Brazilian courts of corruption and money laundering. His conviction was annulled on jurisdictional grounds. After Lula's election, President Biden invited him to the White House, embraced him as a, quote, friend and partner in democracy. Lula later partnered with Iran to allow Iranian warships access and services in the Western Hemisphere. Given Lula's past corruption, are you concerned that his assistance to Iran is linked to current corruption?
Senator, as I said, we don't comment on any particular investigations that may or may not be underway or comment on particular individuals. And
look, that's a convenient stance, but on the face of it, it's very easy. If you want to be corrupt, be a leftist, and the Biden administration will pat you on the back and encourage you. It is obvious to anyone watching. And so simply saying we don't comment on it, look, you guys are doing the same thing in Israel where you sanction Jews and you don't sanction Hamas. It's very simple. You use sanctions as a political bludgeon and as political protection for the people you decide you like. How about let's shift somewhere else, which is South Africa. I'm concerned that corruption in South Africa is undermining American interest. Under the Ramaphosa government, South Africa has been swamped by endemic corruption. South Africa's Chief Justice recently submitted a 5,000-page report detailing just some of the corruption from just the last few years. Are you tracking these concerns? What's the State Department doing to combat corruption in South Africa?
Senator, thank you very much for the question. Corruption issues have been a focus of our work in South Africa, again, across the arc of different activities, whether we're talking about specific prevention-related programs or support to financial intelligence units and to prosecutors and accountability institutions there as well. And we're also very much engaged with civil society organizations and others to improve reporting on corruption-related trends and problems that are identified.
So one place in particular where we've seen the consequences in South Africa is related to our ally Israel. South Africa has become a global leader in undermining Israel, including lodging a case against Israel in the International Court of Justice. There are multiple serious, credible allegations that South Africa's decision-making is being driven by corruption related to Iran. South African Foreign Minister Pandor met with Iranian President Raisi in Tehran to coordinate, and Ramaphosa himself has been implicated in bribery scandals. Are you concerned that corruption and bribery are greasing the Iranian-South African relationship?
Senator, we've been very clear that we've got concerns regarding corruption activities coming out of Iran. And as I've been saying, that we're concerned about corruption around the world, and any instances of it will be investigated by the Department of State, Department of Treasury, intelligence community, and others in order to respond. I should also note, sir, that when I was describing some of the activities we've got ongoing in South Africa, one of the other activities we have is support to the FBI to be able to have an investigator and a supporter of improving the systems that are there as well, who also engages in regional activity as well. So we are very much focused on corruption challenges in South Africa, and as a relation to that, we're also focused on the challenge of Iran and Iranian corrupt activities that might be taking place internationally.
Thank you.
Senator Murphy.